What's going on, everyone? This is Lior with Compass out of Boston, and in this video, we're going to talk about the pros and the cons of buying a condo around the Boston area. So let's get at it. What's going on, guys? My name's Lior and I'm with Compass out of Boston, and in this video we're going to be talking about some of the pros and some of the cons you should be thinking of if you're going to be buying a condo around the Boston area. Now, before we get into it, two quick things. Number one, if you guys haven't already subscribed to my channel, smash that subscribe button. I put out so many videos every single week, and that way if you subscribe, you'll know every single time I put out a new video. So smash that subscribe button. And number two, if you guys are even thinking about doing anything with real estate, whether it's buying, selling, investing, whatever it is, hit me up, shoot me a call, send me a text, shoot me a call, and I will help you out. I get so many phone calls from you guys, and I absolutely love it. So if you're thinking about doing anything, just let me know. So let's get into today's content, which is the pros and the cons of buying a condo around the Boston area. And we're going to start with the pros. So number one pro, if you're thinking about potentially living in the city, right? So you're thinking about going close to Boston, whether an actual downtown, areas like the South End, Fenway, even Charlestown, Southie, Cambridge, Somerville, right? If you're going outside of Boston, all these areas are amazing, but they have more limited selection of single families, right? They have way more condo inventory, so it's a lot rarer of a product. Single family is much rarer of a product in the city. So if you want to live in the city, then condo is kind of your best bet to be able to break into these kinds of markets. Now, number two, going along with this, more selection of condos in the city, your pricing for condos takes you a lot further than you would ever on a single family, right? So again, if you're thinking about moving somewhere around downtown, or within a few miles of Boston, if you compare a typical condo for a certain price range, let's say like $800,000, and a single family for an $800,000, that condo is going to be way different than that single family, right? You can either buy way more square footage, right? So, your price per square foot on a single family is typically more expensive than on a condo, right? So you can buy a much bigger condo, or your condition is going to be much nicer, right? So instead of buying a single family for $800,000 that needs some love, needs some work, is pretty small, you can buy a bigger condo, that is in way nicer condition, right off the bat. So with the condo, you can get product that is in much better condition, and is typically even maybe a little bit bigger for the same price point. Now, pro number three, we're going to talk about maintenance. So with a condo, you're obviously going into an association, and you're going to share maintenance responsibility and risk with all of the condo owners, right? So if you have something come up like a siding issue, a roofing issue, some decks need to be repaired, whatever it is, on a single family, that's 100% on your head, right? So not only do you have to cover 100% of the cost, but you have to deal with 100% of the headaches, right? You've got to go get multiple bids, manage the contractors, get the work done. It's a fair amount of work. With condos, not only do you split that risk, right? So if you've got a big roof on your condo building, it's not like it falls right on your head, right? You're splitting it with all the other owners. But the other thing is, from a responsibility perspective, you don't have to do nearly as much, right? Typically, associations will have a couple of people that are the point people that will take on the work and handle the contracts, handling the management of the project, etc. So not only do you not have to pay for everything, but your responsibility in actually getting the project done can be a lot lower than if it were a single family, which for a lot of busy people, right, that don't necessarily want to deal with these maintenance issues, is perfect. Pro number four, if your strategy is to potentially live in the condo for a couple of years and then turn it into a rental property, I think a condo is a much better type of rental investment than a single family. Why? Well, it's for the reasons we talked about. From a maintenance perspective, again, you don't have to dish out checks for big things like roofing, siding, porches, exterior, or whatever it may be, right? You kind of have that shared responsibility with the other owners of the association. Plus, with a condo, you can get really strong rents, right? It's a much more common product, especially closer to the city and closer to Boston. So you'll always have demand for it. Whereas again, single family can still be a good investment. You're just going to have to deal with a lot more things, right? Everything is on your head from a maintenance perspective, and you know, you don't always get a huge premium for rent, even though single families, the same single family square footage condition wise is going to cost you a lot more money than a condo. So your return on the money may not actually be as great. Now let's talk about some of the cons. So con number one is you're going to have neighbors, right? So, you know, living in a condo building means you're sharing the walls with other neighbors, with other people who are going to be living in the building. And for some people that really need privacy, that could be a major, major con, right? That's why a lot of people really like and prefer single families. You know, you're going to have people walking the hallways. Yes, you'll have some noise every so often. You know, people are people and they can do stupid things, right? So you need to be aware that, yes, you're going to be living with other people. There's going to be some sort of shared walls or and shared space. So just be aware of that, you know, just be aware of that and be comfortable with that. Number two is you're going to have an HOA, right? That's a con as well. You're going to have an HOA and you're going to have an association fee. And, you know, in Boston, those fees can range anywhere typically from say $200 to $500-600. And believe me, they can also go a lot higher. Now, these HOA fees do cover quite a bit of good things, right? A lot of the times they cover water, sewer. Sometimes they cover other utilities like heat, like gas or electrical. You know, they will also, depending on the association, cover things like property management, snow removal, trash removal. So you do get some good things included in this association fee that really add value. But it is certainly another payment that you're going to have to deal with that's going to be added to your total monthly payment. So, you know, you just got to, again, you got to be aware with that and you got to be comfortable with it. And finally, con number three to be aware of is with associations and buildings, you typically have certain restrictions, right? Every association has their own restrictions. Some restrictions could be pet restrictions, right? So if you've got 2 dogs, there's a lot of associations around the area that may only limit you know, the owners to have only 1 pet, or maybe under a certain weight or a certain breed, right? That happens a lot around the Boston area. So you got to make sure if you've got specific types of pets or multiple pets that you'll be okay moving into certain associations. You can also have restrictions on things like rental restrictions, right? So if your game plan, like we talked about, is to live in the unit, potentially rent it out down the line, make sure there's no rental restrictions in the association, because some associations will say, we have a limited amount of units that we want as rentals. And if that number is already matched, you cannot rent your unit out. So just be careful about that, because again, you want to make sure that the association restrictions don't hinder any of your plans, any of your lifestyle, anything like that, right? So again, it's one of those things that you got to be aware of it, but just get comfortable with it, because that's what it is when buying a condo. So overall, there's a good number of pros. There's certainly cons with living in a condo. Again, if you're going to be going and trying to buy a house towards the city, right, around Boston or within a few miles, you're more than likely going to end up going after condos, right? Just because from a pricing perspective, single families are much rarer, much more expensive. You know, so take these things into considerations. And like I said, just make sure you're comfortable with them. And if you guys have any questions, any comments, whatever it is, shoot them below. And like I said, guys, I get so many calls from you guys asking me all about what it's like to live here, what it's like to buy, invest, different neighborhoods. So if you have any of those questions, shoot me a call, send me a text, send me an email, DM me on Instagram, and I will help you out.